Alright, hello everyone, my name is Shep, welcome back to the Butcher Circus. Today we're gonna have a completely new video style because the Butcher Circus is still down. I do believe that the developers are actually on the way of bringing it back up without an update, which is quite sad, but in the meanwhile I'm gonna actually be doing a video series that I was supposed to do quite a while ago, but I never got around to it because I actually prefer playing the game than just talking about it, but here we are. We are going to be essentially reviewing how I would change the Butcher Circus for the next few days, and what you should know is that what most people would like to change is make characters weaker, but what I like to do, what I think is a better game philosophy, is make the weak characters stronger. So today we're going to start off with the Hellion, so the video is going to be divided into a couple of parts, and this first one is going to be why the Hellion doesn't actually work in the Butcher Circus. So the reason she doesn't work is because she has 15% move resistance. So in the base game you have big damage abilities like Bleed Out, Wicked Hacker and so on, and you can use them, you can spam them however much you want, you just do a lot of damage, and she's kind of like a leper character, I feel. I wasn't really the biggest fan of Hellion in the base game, but you know, she did do a lot of damage and you wouldn't get disrupted all that much. Now the reason why she absolutely sucks the most in the Butcher Circus is no matter how you want to play her, she might get disrupted by one of the most popular characters, which is the Abomination. He can just transform and slam her, which basically ruins your entire match. So if you're on against an Abomination, which is about in half the teams in the Butcher Circus, you're gonna get pushed to the back because you only have 15% move resistance. Now there's 3 ways to play the Hellion as she is right now. Either you bring her as a damage character and try to spam Bleed Out, you bring her as a stress character and try to spam Yawp, or you bring her as a DOT character and try to spam Breakthrough with the clever use of the crushed Hemlock Trinket, which is going to allow you to apply Blight with the Breakthrough on all 3 characters. Now all 3 of these ways of playing her are relatively trash because she's garbage. She is the worst character in the Butcher Circus, on par with the Plague Doctor, but at least she's dangerous garbage. She has actual good abilities. The Hellion just doesn't. She is just bad as a character. Now the thing is, if you're playing her damage character, she gets pushed to the back and then you still have a few options. Even if you get pushed to position 3 from position 1, you still have Breakthrough and you still have If It Bleeds as your offensive options. Now If It Bleeds is a horrible ability, 80 accuracy, bad damage mod, bad bleeds. She doesn't have great bleeds energy trinkets. We will look into how I'm going to change them later, of course. But yeah, this is just not a great ability. Very, very far from actually being decent. She's just going to be essentially useless doing that. And you have Breakthrough, which dazes yourself and does pretty much no damage if you're playing as a damage Hellion, and you're probably not going to have Crushed Hemlock to make use of it. And dazing yourself on the damage team is the worst thing you can possibly do, because you'll not be able to choose and pick your characters, which means you won't be able to kill enemy characters by using your actions in a smart way, so that is 100% not going to work. Now the reason she doesn't really work as a stress character is essentially the same. She gets pushed to the back and then she won't be quite as good. Not to mention that her debuff minus 15 accuracy is good, but it's not great, and she still goes down rather quickly. And compared to other characters, your sustainability just sucks, because Adrenaline Rush, you can use it 4 times, which is good, heals yourself for a little bit, gives you a few damage buffs, gives you some cures, like that's all well and good, but if you're down at 0 HP and you use this to heal up for 4, what's gonna happen is, if you're playing against the DOT team, you're gonna get hit with like a Festering Vapors and you're gonna go back down to 0 the next round. If you're playing against the damage team, you're gonna get hit by Crusader Stun, you're gonna get stunned, and you're gonna go back to 0 HP the next round. So this ability just is far from great, and it's going to be completely reworked in, you know, just a few minutes. So what I actually did to, and of course in terms of her damage variation, she also doesn't really do enough damage. She's not like an Arbalest, which can just get crits. She's also not really like a leper, which can just do a lot of damage. Bleed Out dazes yourself, which sucks, and it's got 80 accuracy base. Like, she's overall really just a terrible character. But now I'm gonna go into how I'm actually going to rework her. So I'm gonna go into the trinkets first. No, actually let's go into the abilities first. I think that would be cooler. So the basic idea about how I reworked her is that I completely removed Deathbow Chance from her kit, because she does have Deathbow Chance on her abilities and on her trinkets. She has a trinket with plus 10%. And while that does sound good, it doesn't really fit too well, because she's not even near as useful as a bounty hunter, and her actual finishing abilities are just very underwhelming. Even though they have good death blow chances, she can be a support finisher. But to use Iron Swan, for example, you have to be in position 1 and you have to hit into position 4. Now, the biggest problem with that is that for starters you have to be in position 1. That's probably not going to happen, because you're going to get pushed around and all that. And secondly, hitting into position 4 is something that not a lot of damage teams actually do. The only abilities that hit into position 4 are things like Sniper Shot. If you look at all the other damage characters, for example, the Highman can only really hit up to position 3, the Abomination can really only hit up to position 3, same thing with the Jester to get those skills, same thing with the Abomination, same thing with no, the Shieldbreaker can hit further, but the Grave Robber, for example, can also only hit to position 3. They're all kind of locked. Position 4 is an ability that's typically safe, unless you pull it, and if you're pulling it, you're not going to get death blows on it. So even though it's got a very nice death blow chance, it's just not going to get kills, which sucks. But yeah, we're going to go into Wicked Hack first. So the way I changed this ability is that I did increase the... I should have the ability going up right now. I think I'm quite content with how the little UI for them looks like. But yeah, I did increase the accuracy up to 100 and I did give it a damage mod. So now it's still going to have the same abilities from position 2 up to position 2 on how you can hit enemy characters, and it's essentially going to do a lot more damage than what it did before, and the death blow chance is just going to be removed. Like, that's not the character that she's going to become. She's going to become kind of a frontline brawler with a little bit of self-sustain and also very cool damage mods, because she's not really going to be an Arbus which can one-shot, and she's not really going to be a leper, which makes it so, you know, once she goes out of position 1, she's kind of useless. She's going to have a much better kit. So in terms of Wicked Hack, it's still quite a basic ability, but it is quite a solid one. In terms of Iron Swan, this ability now has 100 accuracy base, and it also has plus 20% damage mod, so that means that it's actually going to hurt quite a bit. It does also have the same crit mod as it did before, which is actually a bit less than Wicked Hack, but shouldn't make too much of a difference. And now it actually hits positions 3 and 4, and what that allows you to do is actually have a lot of reach with the Hellion, which is something that she was kind of famous for in the base game, and now she really doesn't. But with the Wicked Hack and with the Iron Swan, if you're in position 1, you'll be able to hit every single character in the enemy team quite reliably too, because you will have a lot of damage mod, you'll have very decent accuracy base at 100, she's going to be a frontline character with a lot of reach, so it's something that's kind of unique to the Hellion, which I do quite enjoy. So Iron Swan is definitely going to be an ability that you aren't going to look over completely anymore, because hitting position 3 characters is quite great. You're going to be able to focus on bounty hunters, jesters, maybe even antiquarians, characters like that. So it is going to be a very solid ability, because you do actually have follow-ups to get kills, like the Finish Him and the Jester Dirk Stab and whatever. So the Terrifying Yop is going to get quite a big rework. So it's instead of being melee, it's actually going to go to ranged, because I felt like if I did allow it to still have Hemlock synergy with the melee, which doesn't make any sense for starters, it would be a little bit too overpowered, because on top of what it already has, it's also going to apply a debuff for plus 15% damage taken. I think I wrote down damage received, but it should be damage taken. And what that essentially means is Stretch Hellion is still going to be essentially very, very similar to what she is right now, but she's going to get better trinketing, and she's going to have this going for her. Now, plus damage received doesn't really help stress teams all that much. It will help if you're doing like a lot of DOT with your backline, but overall it's not going to be too impactful. But you will have the possibility of just bringing this on your damage team and just having her as kind of like a weird character that's going to let you get more damage on the enemy characters with your other characters. If you do want to do that, you know, there's a lot of possibilities with this new Hellion. So in terms of the if it bleeds, it is getting a massive buff. Its accuracy base is going from 80 to 95, so that's a plus 15 increase, which is just amazing. The crit mod is going to go down a bit, because I felt like with the next change, having that crit mod would be kind of insane. Not to mention that she has now a really good crit trinket. And the bleed chance is going to go up from 100 to 110, so that's Hound's bleed chance, so that is quite good. Even if you don't bring the bleed trinket on her, she can still get those bleeds relatively reliably. and she is going to have 4 bleed, 4 points of bleed for 4 rounds. So it's actually going to hurt a lot more than what it did before if you do actually get those bleeds. So it is quite a solid ability. It goes from possibly her worst one on par with Iron Swan to actually being one of her best ones, because you can literally just put the Hellion in position 3 and just spam if it bleeds with her from now on. If you do actually want to do that, it will be viable, because you will be able to just eliminate the character if you do have the good trinkets for it. And you will have Breakthrough, which has essentially the same thing. I did nerf the crit mod by just a touch, won't really make a difference. But once again, it's because of her new crit trinket. I didn't want her to get like Arbos levels of crit. And she will no longer daze herself. She does have the debuff still, but no longer having a daze is amazing, because now you can actually get pulled to the push to the back and use it, just like Holy Lance from the Crusader, so that is going to be quite good. You will also still have Hemlock, so if you are one of the DOT Hellion enjoyers, you're really going to like this change, because now you can have Hemlock and you can spam Breakthrough without dazing yourself, which is also amazing. Now, Adrenaline Rush is getting the second biggest rework. The one that will get the biggest rework is Bleed Out, but Adrenaline Rush is now essentially identical to the Leper's Revenge, which is quite an interesting change. Well, the only difference that it does have is that instead of giving it 15 accuracy, it's only give it 10. It's only going to give 10 because her accuracy bases are actually quite decent at 195, which is basically Crusader levels of accuracy with Stunning Blow, so I didn't want her accuracy to go too high. If you do want to hit dodge characters, you're still going to have to give her any more accuracy buffs, so I didn't want it to be at 15. That would just be a touch too much. And the other difference that it does still have is that it still heals yourself for 4. Now, an ability that you can only use once to heal yourself for 4 doesn't really make too much sense, but this is essentially theirs in case you get stunned round 1 and then you still want to use the ability, and you just heal yourself for 4. I feel like that is perfectly okay just having that there. I think it's kind of a good reminder of what she used to be like, and it is still a very kind of helpful buff. If you want to use it at the very end of the match, like, maybe throughout the middle of the game, when you're already at like 0 HP, and then you use it, give yourself a damage buff, permanent one, and heal yourself by a bit, the plus damage received won't really make a difference because you're already at this, alright? So if you want to use it that way, you can. Now, the Bleed Out is the one that's going to be getting the biggest change. The accuracy base is going to go from 80 to 90, so that's quite good. The damage mod and the crit mod are going to stay the exact same, but it's going to be limited. It's going to only have 3 uses. And what it looks like now is basically an Exsanguinate, but kind of a light version of an Exsanguinate. Instead of just getting a massive bleed, you do massive damage and get a bleed on top, and instead of healing yourself for a lot, you just heal yourself for a bit. 9 HP is still nice, but she doesn't really have the sustainability of a Leper or of a Flagellant, so don't even think about it. She also doesn't have the team-saving abilities of a Crusader, for example, that Rally to the Flame, but this Bleed Out is something that's going to be really helpful, because healing yourself for 9 HP is still quite a good amount. It will probably save you. If, for example, if you're at death's door and if you use it, it will probably save you from being dropped to death's door by a Stunning Blow or a Manacles immediately, so that is going to be quite helpful. It will still daze yourself, because Exsanguinate also dazes yourself, and I did think that giving this no daze would be a little bit too strong. It no longer has the damage debuff, and the healing skill debuff is stronger than the Flagellant's one. It's minus 100% healing skills for 2 rounds, which is, double of the Flagellant's minus 50, so you can't use this one round and then use it the next and still heal yourself for a bit. If you do drop down to 0, you are not going to have healing skills. Unless you go for example, Silver Syringe, but that is definitely on the weird side. So Bleed Out is going to be very solid ability. It's going to be limited to 3 uses, so if you wanted to use damage shelling the old way should be used, which is just put her first, give her a lot of damage, and just go Bleed Out immediately. You will still be able to do that, but you will be limited to 3 uses. But honestly, after 3 Bleed Outs, if you're not winning with an aggressive team like that, I don't think having a 4th one would really help. So let's go now into the trinkets, and the trinkets are going to be the coolest change. I do very much like her new trinkets. So here we are first for the Bone Vest. Now the Bone Vest is still going to keep its protection, and the death blow resistance, and the stress dealt. But instead of having stress taken, it's now going to have plus 15% move resistance. And why is that actually kind of strong? It's going to make her move resistance go from 15 to 30, which still isn't great, let's be honest, but so she will still have that vulnerability, even with the Bone Vest, but it's definitely more than before. And now, if the Abomination does, even if the Abomination does have the net, or even if the enemy bounty hunter does have the grappling mitts to uppercut you or something like that, you will have a chance of resisting the move. And if they do not have these trinkets, you actually have a pretty decent chance of resisting the move. So that is quite a nice change to the Bone Vest. Also, stress taken isn't really too good. I don't really like having that. It's just not a great thing to have on your trinkets, because it could bite you in the ass, and it's honestly just not a great trinket before, and now it's a little bit better. So Stress Hellion is getting quite a decent buff overall. Now, Executioner's Halberd, once again, I did remove the Deathflow Transformer kit, and now this one's getting a massive buff. This is what's gonna make the Hellion kind of surpass the Leper in some matchups, because she's still gonna keep the plus 15% damage and 3 crit, but she's gonna get 20% armor piercing, which is massive. That's the same as the Arbalest armor piercing. You don't get any extra accuracy for it, of course, and the damage and crit, you know, it's good, but that armor piercing is just brutal, absolutely brutal to get on a character like this, because now she doesn't even need to rely on the bleeds to just do damage, which makes both Wicked Hack and Iron Swan an absolute menace to the enemy characters, even if they have a little bit of protection. So the Executioner's Halberd, definitely a very solid trinket. She's still not gonna get, like, you know, rolls for like 20 plus against Man-at-Arms after using guards, because she won't have Mark Synergy, of course, but she will still do a whole lot of damage, so that's nice. The Razor Pin is getting a slight buff, because I don't think buffing the accuracy by 15, I think giving it plus 5 accuracy is good. I don't think it needs any more than that, because her accuracy bases are actually quite decent now, and making it 15 means that her bleed abilities are essentially gonna have really good accuracy, like at 110 on the bleed out, maybe even a little bit more. No, it's 110 on the bleed out with the Razor Pen, which is very good levels of accuracy. I don't think you need any more than that unless you're running against a lot of dodge, and in that case you should need your accuracy buffs if you do want to hit reliably. So it's going to be a very nice trinket overall. You can run it in both the DOT Hellion and also the damage Hellion, and it's going to help you with both your bleed outs and your if it bleeds, which are now both great abilities. And then we have the last one, the Savage Gauntlets. Now this one's getting a complete rework. It's no longer plus damage if afflicted, it now gives you a 30% virtue chance, very like the Crusader's Sacred Blade. But even if that virtue chance doesn't work, you still have other things going for you. You still have plus 8 accuracy and plus 7% crit. Now, plus 8 accuracy is quite good, especially with the accuracy base you have already. It's essentially like a rate of execution. It is gonna give you that very decent amount of accuracy, so it is good. And 7% crit can make a lot of difference. It definitely can. Your crit chances are gonna essentially increase by like almost half on some abilities, so 7% crit is really great. And if you do get the virtue, then things could turn out really well for you. So Savage Gauntlets is definitely going to be a very nice trinket from now on. Maybe not the strongest trinket, maybe not as important to take as the Executioner's Halberd on the damage variation, but 8 accuracy, 7 crit, like, you just can't go wrong with it. It's going to help you in pretty much every single ability apart from the Stress Hellion. So yeah, that is going to be the Hellion rework. I didn't change any of her stats, I didn't do any of that, but overall she's going to be not really a copy of any character, but she's going to be kind of a mash between different characters, and she's going to have a lot of different ways of being played, which I very much like, and I would love to play her with this rework. I feel like there's so many things to be tried with all these different abilities that are actually really decent now. So hopefully Red Hook implements something like this. It is a little bit on the unlikely side, but I would love to see it. And anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed this video anyway. I definitely enjoyed making it. I thought about doing something a little bit more full through, but that's all we're gonna have for today. We will also be going to Plague Doctor, maybe even to some trinkets, other characters, maybe slight nerfs, other slight buffs, and we'll be seeing in the future. So I will keep you updated in terms of Butcher Circus maintenance, and I'll see you again on the next video. Cheers.